Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another exciting program of Track and Field Totnet. We are happy that you are here and we are excited about today's episode of Track and Field Totnet, the Roundup. We are elated to have you all with us as you join us on Track and Field Totnet. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for being here with us. And if it is that you have not yet tell a friend to tell a friend, we remind you to go ahead and do so that they can all join us when it is that we have our track and field taught episode here on track and field taught. Well, today, as we have announced that we have also changed our daily or weekly time space where we now will be viewing our podcast on Sundays at 5 p.m. Jamaican time and 6 p.m. American time until it is that we are both on the same time span. But we are still excited that you are still excited to join us once it is that we are live. And today we definitely want to show you and have a conversation about track and field, even though we are coming to the close of the season and moving into basically some time spending for the athletes. We are still here where we will talk about athletes and we will talk about what is happening in the space. Hey, good evening to you, Ax, as you join us. We are happy that you are here with us. And also tonight we want to speak about the roundup of what is happening in track and field for the week. So tonight we will talk to you about news at the finish line, and that is coming to you live from Track and Field Totnet. So good evening, Track and Field fans. This is news from the finish line on Track and Field Totnet, bringing you the latest updates from the fast-moving world of athletics. So indeed, athletics is fastly paced and fastly moving, and several high-profile moves and some long-awaited financial news are shaking up the local track and field scene this week. So let's dive into it and get right up on it. Kevona Davis has officially joined the Racers Track Club under the watchful eye of legendary coach Glenn Mills. Mills has confirmed that Davis, the former Edwin Allen standout, is now back here in Jamaica and being carefully managed as she rebuilds her form. With personal best of 10.95 seconds in the 100 meters and 22.26 seconds in the 200 meters, Davis still has plenty of speed in the tank, and Mills says she still has it, but it's going to take time. So he's asking for us to exercise some patience with her. Now, the hurdles community is buzzing as Olympic bronze medalist and national champion Megan Tapper is leaving Elite Performance Track Club and heading back to MVP, where she was formerly at, where she will now be joined by rising star Kerry Cahill, the two-time world under-20 hurdles champion. Hill's move marks her transition from junior dominance to senior level focus. Could this new partnership make Jamaica even stronger in the women's sprint hurdles? That's a question for you to answer and something for us to experience. Now, experience meets youth as Tapper's consistency and Hill's explosive potential may prove to be a winning combination for the upcoming season. And finally, money matters. We have been talking about this all season long. Now, the Grand Slam Track League, which made headlines earlier this year for unpaid prize money, has announced that athletes will begin receiving partial payments this month. This week, Grand Slam Track confirmed it has secured emergency funding and will pay out roughly 50% of what is owed to athletes. While this news offers relief to athletes awaiting compensation, concerns linger about whether the remaining sums will be paid and how these delays may affect the trust in future Grand Slam events. With club transfers reshaping training groups and financial headlines influencing athletes' confidence, Jamaica's track and field scene is in motion both on and off the track. As the 2025-2026 season approaches, fans will be watching closely to see how these changes translate into performances and whether stability returns to the sport's global business side. And that's your weekly news from the finish line for this week. I'm Latoya, keeping you up to speed on track and field action. So stay tuned for more updates and interviews right here on Track and Field Talknet. So we thank you so much for joining us for news on the finish line. And as we continue the great things that we do here at Track and Field Talknet, I want you all to help me welcome our great panelists tonight again as we discuss all things track and field. As you know, you are aware of our, seasoned personnel, Mr. Zavian Duncan, being here with us again tonight. Definitely, Zavian.
Hey, hey, Latoya, what's going on? Hi to everyone. Good evening. Happy Sunday. Happy
Happy
to be
Sunday.
here another day. Not Monday, but Sunday. Sunday evening ride.
Not
Um,
Monday, but Sunday indeed. And
yeah.
again, we also welcome with us another seasoned person. He has become one of our seasoned family members over here, the analyst in his own right, the great, as I call him, Mr. Kemal Forde. It's always great to have you, Kemal. Good evening to you, Kemal. I hope that your evening is going great.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. A bit under the weather, but you still have to show it no matter what. Track and field season is at its end now. Where we have one major meet left in the regular season, Althos and everything. We have a lot of things to talk about. Athletes changing camps, all that stuff. And looking forward to this evening's discussion.
Definitely, we're looking forward to it too, also. And I do also believe that this man is also becoming a seasoned, seasoned track and field sort and family member over here because no matter when it is that we call upon him, he is always ready and available. I speak of none other than Mr. Anderson Emerole himself. It is always a pleasure to have you, Anderson, and good evening to you too. How
Thank
are
you,
you
thank
doing?
you, thank you. Of course, so glad to be able to jump onto the show again, to be able to like talk some track and field. It's been a long year, and like we're almost to the end. I guess there's one more big thing left. So, but yeah, excited to dive in today.
Exciting. I'm happy that we are all excited to dive in today and just deal with track and field, the sport that we love dearly to our heart. I feel like we definitely do it for the love and not for the likes.
Yeah.
Definitely because it is track and field. Well, tonight I will just move right into track and field and let us have the conversation. I mean, Anderson, you have experienced Tokyo in ways that we have not experienced it. I mean, we went to Tokyo but didn't went to Tokyo. I mean, we were there late in the night, early in the morning, late in the night, early in the morning. But we can just only imagine what it has been like for you being in that atmosphere and stuff. So, do you want to take us through that?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely an amazing experience. Obviously, y'all already kind of like recapped the meet and the results and everything, but like being there on the ground, I mean, I'll say first off, there was a reason we saw so many great performances in Tokyo because this was, people might forget, this was the stadium where the Olympics in 2021 occurred, but there was no fans, there was no spectators. So the athletes now getting the opportunity to not only have so many fans with the stadium packed out with 50,000 people, but then also being able to explore around, Tokyo and get that experience. I remember there was a press conference after the men's 100, where Oblique and Kishane and Noah, they had won the medals. Kishane and Noah were kind of going a little back and forth about the anime and things like that. I think that contributes, that is a factor of them being able to experience Tokyo, get to see things, get to enjoy things, and then bringing that to, the track. And of course, in that case, the press conference. But I mean, it was electrifying across the board. Definitely, the athletes felt the energy. Myself kind of covering the meet across the board. It was a very, very, busy 9 days for me. But I mean, I was so elated to just be on the ground. And also, I'm very, very thankful for the opportunity to be able to get a chance to cover, meets like these on the ground, being able to speak with the athletes and, hear their emotions, to hear their struggles, to hear their celebrations, to hear their high moments, after the races, in between the days. Like those things are really, really valuable. And, I'm glad I had the opportunity to be there. But yeah, Tokyo was electric, absolutely electric.
It was electric for me who was not there. So definitely I can imagine it being electric for you also. You shared a good starting point because for me seeing that conference with Noah and Kishane of the animes. I can just imagine what that was like for them because they're animated and they're in the town, the city, the make of animes, the place where animes is all animated. Um, I was I saw a little snippet where Noah was watching one of the Japanese athletes when he was actually animating, and I was like, it's all coming full circle to have them realizing their animes coming out in different forms and different type of animes, especially for persons who are not anime persons. So that was a good thing to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, that stuff was like really really fun. It allows us to see just a different side of the athlete, like these different personalities. Because someone like Noah, obviously, he's very people know a lot about him because he's very outgoing, he's very outspoken. But someone like Kashane, who's a lot more quiet, and even though us in the track world and especially Jamaica has known about Kashane and his rise, many people still are not very familiar with Kashane. So getting the opportunity to obviously see him, run very fast on the track, winning a silver medal in the 100 meters, and then getting a taste of, his personality, like, and everything, explaining, what he was doing. I don't watch anime myself, so I don't know exactly, like, I don't know exactly like what he was doing, but like, people getting to see that is really really cool. So yeah, that definitely connected. And I will say, even just one other thing that did stand out was I spoke about the different emotions that athletes felt. Someone like It was interesting watching someone like Sharika Jackson, because obviously last year she didn't get to compete at the Olympics and she had to pull out of both the 100 and the 200. This year, obviously she wasn't putting the performances that we've seen from Sharika in like 2022, 23, right? We didn't see her like that, but she came in to these championships and was able to compete to the best of her ability, get a bronze medal in the 200. But throughout the championships, she was very, very locked in. So she didn't want to speak with media throughout. She was just focused on doing the best that she can. Obviously, she didn't get a medal in the 100. And after that 100, after the 100-meter final, she stopped to talk to the media, but not to do an interview. She just said, listen, I'm focused. After the 200, I'm going to, give everyone everything so you can have, what you need. And then afterwards, after the 200-meter final, she was very very open to just like speaking with everybody, telling her story about her experience there, all the struggles she went through. Obviously, she had to pull out of the 4x1, but that was an interesting experience as well, because sometimes we may not get as much from the athletes and we may not have as much like an idea of like what they're actually going through. Well, maybe a little echo, sorry. But yeah, we may not have an idea of like what they're really going through. But someone like Sharika maybe isn't as expressive compared to other athletes. But this was a really good time where, even though the championships didn't go perfectly, right? She didn't win, gold medals. She didn't even get to run on the 4x1, but she still was, satisfied and opened up to us in the media. So yeah, that was just another big kind of like satisfying experience that I had done while I was there.
Okay. That's something a lot of us may have not recognized or seen because we didn't get to fully see all of those interviews and stuff. Too definitely. Zavian, anything you have to say, or Kemal?
So I always start the opposite. And I always take pride in answering my questions. You spoke about all the positives, and we have heard number of persons within the space spoke their mind. Even the quiet ones spoke their minds about Tokyo. Tell me, with the experience, what would you have improved from the championship? Because in everything that we do, we want to take away stuff from it. So the next time we do have a championship, what would we improve so it can be a better experience for the athletes and the fans themselves?
Oh, that's interesting. Because I say it's interesting because there's a lot of things I did like. I will say this isn't like controllable, but it was very very hot, very hot. And I know that some athletes succumb to, injuries or cramps and things like that. When I say it was hot, like it was very humid all throughout, especially the first half of the championships. Now, in terms of like changing that, I'm not exactly sure how that can occur. I mean, Tokyo as a city is very, very warm in the summer. So that's like one factor, even though it's a really great city. But I know that that's something that I did notice, and the athletes noticed a lot. A lot of athletes were like, they got to stay hydrated, they got to do this, that, whatever. Also connected to that, and I think this kind of did make its rounds online, is the fact that the practice track was, it took like 15 minutes by a shuttle bus for the athletes to get from the practice track to the actual stadium. For whatever reason, it wasn't the same practice track as what was used during the Tokyo Olympic Games. From my understanding, they converted that track into like a baseball field or some like public park, so they couldn't use that anymore. So that also hindered the athletes, hindered athletes and us on media too, because athletes had to warm up on the practice track, maintain that warm up while they get on a bus to travel to the stadium. And then when they go into the call room, right before they're getting on the track, they have to find a way to make sure they're, staying as warm as possible, right? You can't do your full warm up right before, like you did. And now you're sitting on a bus, you're cooling down. So that's something that athletes definitely factored in and were conscious about, of like, okay, this isn't the greatest situation. And then for us on media, there was many times where the athletes finish their race, they would come to talk, or they would come down to media, but they would say, oh, like I can't talk, or oh, I can only answer one question because I have to go catch a bus back to the practice track, right? So those kind of logistics it was really, really strange. I don't know, for world championships in track and field, I think there should be, even just forget, us in media. I think for the athletes, there needs to be, that level of, okay, they're able to go from the practice track directly to the track as quick as possible. Because who knows, maybe we already saw some amazing performances, but maybe we would have seen things drastically better, in terms of their performances.
Location wise as well. And there's a question. Do you think as well that the fact that the athletes had to compete, like they basically went on the offer like shed and they like onto the track and everything and had to walk up a stairs, that could have been like a major factor as well? Because I've seen where athletes that run good time, you see them on TV and they're like, yeah, they look good and everything, but like going up those stairs, they basically have to like take probably 2 or 3 steps, stand up and like breathe heavily, and then say, okay, let's go again. And it's something that we have seen at various meets as well. I think London 2012 had it and everything, and I understand the whole logistics and everything. Some things might look pretty and everything just for us as fans, and it looks good overall, like designing and everything, aesthetics. However, I don't think that going forward, a lot of championship, a lot of stadiums should adapt something like that for athletes, especially after competing in like various like competitions. It's just very tough.
Yeah, 100%. That is something that is actually more common than people realize. And the reason they have this whole thing, like you said, the athletes, once they finish their race, they cross the finish line, they get water, whatever it is, then they have to walk upstairs to go do interviews with the broadcast. So that's like, NBC or BBC, right? Like the major TV broadcasters. And it's a long walk, and then they have to walk back down the stairs, before they then can do, media, like, interviews with, smaller journalists, like people who are not on TV, like myself. So that is a big factor where, athletes do get very, very tired. I don't know. I guess I understand because of how they want broadcasts, and I say they like World Athletics and whatever, they want the broadcast to have the background of the track, right? Like that looks good on TV. So they need the athletes to go up high so that they can get that view. But it's also far enough away from the track. So when other races are going on, that's when you will see an interview, with another athlete. But to the point, it's not great for the athlete. I mean, they have to walk up a long flight of like multiple flights of stairs just to do interviews, about their race. Yeah. So that's a big hindrance.
So yeah, and I've seen the effect as well with even Rashid McDonald, because like Rashid McDonald did excellent in those championships, but like after every round, I don't think Rashid did like any only interviewed with mainstream media, and like he had to walk up there, and like Rashid was like on his back, like afterwards, like, hey, I can't do this anymore. Like this was tough.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So my next question is, and it's just to segue a little bit. Is it that World Athletics dropped the ball when it comes on to the logistics of what it was then, because as you said, the field that was their previous championship was
It
changed
was
into
like,
something else. It's converted to something else. And the thing is with and even listening to you speak about it is that um how would I put it? It's pretty much it's like all of these meets were given or granted years in advance, and this would be a proposal of what it was. And then when it came closer to the time, they realized this is what it is. And unfortunately, the athletes had to suffer this time around
Yeah.
because
I
there are no
don't
adjustments to be made.
Yeah, I don't know if it's World Athletics though, because think about it. This track was built, this entire stadium and then also the practice track and everything. It was built for the Olympic Games, right? Which is drastically different than the track and field World Championships, right? We're one small, I obviously maybe to us track and field is big, but like in the world of athletics and sports in general, track and field is very small compared to anything as it relates to the Olympics. And this is like the city of Tokyo making a decision about, a space, right? The track, and which eventually was like a public park or a baseball field, had to be converted. So I guess I wonder how much leverage World Athletics had to say, okay, we have a championships coming up in 2025. Can we maintain control of this track? Can you at least keep this track, available? And then after our championships, you can tear it down. Or maybe the city had other plans and they maybe they have something bigger coming up and they're like, no, we need to convert this into something else. So you can't use it as a practice track anymore. Because even in the city, like Tokyo is literally the biggest city in the world. Like 30 million people exist in that one city. Like it's crazy. So while this world championships is going on, there's a whole bunch of other things going on that have nothing to do with track and field. So
Figured.
yeah, that's why I'm like, I don't know. I think, I mean, I would have loved if World Athletics, did more lobbying to make sure they can have that practice track. But I don't know how much leverage they have with the city of Tokyo making a decision about its, public space. So that I definitely hear the point, but I don't know. I don't know.
Well, it's a valid point. As you said, it's how much they can leverage at that point in time. I guess when you bid in for certain events, you would have laid down a blueprint then, and it looked good then because you had the practice tracks there, and we just kept the Olympic, and it was a success without even people. But now you are adding a different dimension, and as you said, it's one of the biggest cities in the world, so something had to give, and unfortunately, it's really the athletes. I think, well, for a fact, the athletes had to
at
maneuver
least
it
suffer.
more than anything else
Yeah.
in this championship.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, again, in the world of track and field, like I'm sorry, in the world of sports, track and field is not as big as like whatever else, cities and stuff have going on. So that's the tricky part. That's the tricky
Yeah.
part.
But we appreciate it. I did appreciate Tokyo. I think they did an exceptional job hosting track and field. The stadium, I it's the first time in a long while you've seen track and field that bring that volume. Even the morning session, you just see people watching the morning session, and over 30,000
Yeah.
people just excited to see track and field. So that was really good.
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, I wasn't there, but the last time I remember something like that was maybe 2017 London World
London.
Champs. Yeah, like that was obviously that was like Bolt's last, championships, but I feel like I see that like, okay, morning sessions, the people are there and watching. So yeah.
Being that you went there with Zavian with that question, question is, do you think that because of person starting out, morning session is packed, evening session is packed, do you feel like we should have more meets over that side? I know the distance is very far, because like I had a slight issue or concern with the fact that we had world indoors there. So we had world indoors. For those who went to world indoors, came back to wherever they will have to go back again for world relays, and then we come back and we're back there. So that's why I'm asking, do you think that we need more because of the support? Do you think that we need more meets happening there, but more in a little bit more controlled way. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, in some controlled way. I will say, I mean, like you said, World Indoors on that side, you had World Relays, you had Diamond Leagues there, and then of course, here in Tokyo, in Tokyo, the World Champs. There are definitely, I have no insight, but I assume that there's like some kind of like orchestration of let's make this year with all these big meets, out in East Asia. I think though, I don't know if there should be more meets there. I think it's very very far out, and I wonder, and I think for obviously there's track fans all around the world, but I assume for that maybe the scheduling wasn't great, right? Like you had to wake up.
It was never good. It was never good because like I think for the first couple of days, like for some of us it was like going up to like 10, 11 o'clock here, and then we had to get up at like 4:30 again first round, and again I think like we even over there like when Europe has hosted meets, and I think about places like Budapest, you think about London, you think about even you think about even when Eugene hosted the World Championship, it was good for this side of the region and everything. And obviously the other side of the region, Asia complained and said that hey, the timing is not good for us because it's like we in the late times and everything for us. But I mean, looking at this whole championship again, it was overall like the athletes came and showed out, and I think we have seen where a lot of events have lost volume, not necessarily lost volume per se, but like you understand, athletes are fatigue is started to setting now. We see the men's high jump was the one event we can say like fatigue is setting with those men and everything. We're not seeing the 2.3s and everything, 2.2s are getting medals now and everything, which is we're not used to. As well as you're seeing where it has forced a lot of athletes to basically come and show because like I don't think people really understand if the magnitude of the women's 400 meters because 49.88 did not make that final, and that was crazy though. It was crazy.
It's so true. It's so true. I guess that does have me thinking about, because one of the good things that people did like, and I think athletes did like, is the fact that this is the last meet of the year, or at least like the championships is after everything through the season. So many people were able to put down, because they were trending all till September, all to the championship. So it's like, all right, the 400, this is the one, Sydney and Paulino and Nasser, they knew that this is it. Someone like, Oblique Seville, Kachane, Noah, they knew that this was going to be it. They can work out things through the year, and then this is going to be the final thing. And I think this led to better performances and was received better by the athletes. But then I do wonder if it's like, is this season too long, right? Having it now all the way in September as opposed to, August or, at some point, right? I don't know if that's a good
I
or
think
bad.
it comes down to like the coach, athletes and coach, have the best schedule and best organizing of the season because I think even for you could still have a full season essentially to the indoors, to the Grand Slam, Diamond League, Continental Tours, etc., and be still fit enough to compete. Again, we have seen where in May, for instance, a lot of athletes, Akane Simbine was one such athlete was doing extremely well, and like
Yeah.
September came, he was it was a shot of himself when came on to the World Championship. And again, I think overall, one of the few athletes that had the best strategy this season was actually Melissa Jefferson Wooden. Melissa basically opened that Grand Slam and continued through the season and everything, and had a great season, one of the best seasons that we have seen in a while for a woman. And again, just by her just doing the fact that she wasn't over racing, wasn't over competing per se, and everything like that, and did couple races in Europe and everything, just to show her face and say that, yeah, man, I'm doing, I'm here and performing well and so forth. And it's just showing a lot of coaches going forward how to basically plan the season properly and everything, especially with the fact that World Athletics has now gone with the championship ending the season going forward, and it's just going to be who's smart enough to do certain things.
So, but
Yeah.
Kemal, just listening to it, I didn't like it personally. I don't like it to be the end of it. I never buy into it. There's different reasons why I don't like it. One of them is that now you're asking coaches, which they already been doing over the years, manipulating the system, and we're begging them to have athletes to run more so we can enjoy the sport. Now the system is extended by 4 or 5 weeks. Now athletes are now being scheduled even, I would say, miserly. to get to September. Now the fans and now the sport is going to die because we're going to have athletes that is not going to run. We're waiting for September, and that's killing the sport because we already suffer in past years that we don't get athletes running enough. Melissa is not to cut you. Hold on, Melissa is moon and the star aligned this season. and that's all I can say. The moons and the stars aligned this season for Melissa. But I want to see, and we have not seen an experienced athlete that has done this over the last 5 years. I wouldn't say decade, because then we go to Shellyan. We would say 5 years. A Simbini, we have a Talu that is experienced, struggled this season with the length of what it is. Talu raced all season. Simbini raced all season. Sydney is sneakingly not racing, but know when to race. Sydney.
No, but the thing about even Sydney now, we can't argue that we have seen her a lot more this season. Speaking about Grand Slam, the runs at USA's, for me as a fan, I think the only I would have wanted to see Sydney on the European circuit, even just to jump in at 200 meters there, but just to see her for the sake of her competing and everything. And again, it comes on to who the coaches and everything who plan the season better. Because let's look on. You use Melissa as example, even Julian Alfred was indoors as well and everything and competed sparingly per se, and I've said this time and time again. The smartest track athlete in all of this championship cycle has been Faith Kipyegon. Faith Kipyegon might probably just runs a few races, just show her face in like April and May, 2 races. You might see her in August there, but you're not going to see her until the championship and everything. People might be like, oh, but Faith, we should be competing and everything. Let's just remember that the fact that she has gone 5 for 5 in this championship cycle. Had she been like other athletes who was just competing at every Diamond League, every meet and everything, we probably wouldn't have seen her in Tokyo gone 5 for 5 as well. You look on even somebody like Ryan Krauser as well. People might disagree on that. Ryan Krauser just show up and get a world championship title. How could you? You understand? That's crazy.
So Kemal, I have a question for you. What do you want? You want an exciting season or just a championship?
No, I want an exciting season where athletes pick and compete through the season, but do not over-compete in the sense that they don't. Let's say, for instance, let's contractual obligation. Let's say Melissa Jefferson wouldn't as a Nike athlete say that, hey, Nike, you must do at least 6 races outside of nationals, outside of a championship setting. Like, we need to do 6 races, right? If Melissa can probably like race in April, race in May, and then get herself into some competitive races where she might have probably a Tina, a Sherika, a Shakira, TT, etc. Dina Smith in those races, like especially in the, I'd say like closer to championship and everything. Like I'm all for that, but I don't. For an athlete, I have to believe that athletes. I'd rather to see athletes compete well at a championship instead of basically do well throughout the season. When the championship come there, there's nothing from them to say that, hey, like, what happened. And the thing is, a lot of us are true track fans. You remember that, hey, like, this person did this time in April, but this is September. No, like, what are you doing for me now in September?
Yeah, and I'll also say there's a balance, right? Like, let's say you have the championships in end of July or August. Some athletes may just end their season then, even if there's Diamond Leagues after. So, like, we're going to see some balance of, sure, we may get more track and field, we may get more competition early on, and then in the second half, there's going to be no one. At least now, there's athletes who will stretch out their season. Maybe in the middle of the year, they'll take some meets off, but I feel like with this longer time, or at least like, the World Championships at the end of the year, we actually end up getting more, sightings of these athletes across the year. That's what I think happens.
Definitely, because if you go back to the 2022 season when Sydney broke the world record and ran 47 at the world 47 split on the 4x4, we only saw Sydney one time, and it was at the gala is Van Emerole after that, and then like she should have raced in, I think, Lausanne for the Diamond League, and then she was like, no, I'm on my honeymoon. Sydney and her husband were there and in the stadium like watching the meet that Thursday, and it was crazy. Like she was listening to compete with Rochelle.
It's funny. Hold on, Latoya. It's funny, and I have to laugh because I was reading a clip, and I won't quote exactly, but in summary, I think someone said it's going on in the space that these athletes are not mentally tough anymore. And I think if our hurdlers, our female hurdlers, can do it all season and compete all season, week in, week out, why are every other athletes shying away from it?
And
So
yeah,
let me
go ahead,
just chime
Latoya.
in 1 second let me chime in 1 second as he uses the hurdlers. What we see as we talk about the hurdlers, we say that they are, they are it. And they clock that T, as they tend to say, each time they run, because they show up all the time. However, what we have been seeing over this, what we would say past 5 years with these hurdlers showing up all the time, every time, it gives us that level of unsurety, which is good enough, of who is going to, that lineage of what is going to come when we come to the championships. Because we can speak about Tokyo. No one, I think I can definitely say, no one saw Kabunji winning the title. I mean, I had her to challenge for the medal podium, but not winning the title. And I feel because they show up all the time, which is what a lot of us want. We want our athletes to show up when it is that, it is their time to show up and do this. But then we need to maybe examine or calculate what it does to the athletes when it is that they show up all the time. But I mean, if we can have athletes, maybe not necessarily all of the stars, as some are calling them, not staying in or shying away from showing us their colors. We use Sydney as example. If we can at least get to see Sydney more often, then I mean that will also help. But not necessarily that they have to show up, 3 times out of a month to run a meet every month. Therefore, we're going to find that we're going to be not sure of what is going to happen at the championship when it comes, or we will end up having lackluster time. Do I call it that? No disrespect, but lackluster timings, because we tend to find that we see fast time coming out of the first round, fast time coming out of the semifinals, and then when we get to the finals, we don't get that again. And therefore, maybe we need to examine that. I don't know if that kind of share of you.
I have a question for you, Latoya.
Go ahead.
If Sydney had run this season with Paulina and Nasir, you think she would be able to win that race?
If she did run, yes,
this season,
yes.
With
One second, let me answer the question. Yeah. She would be able to win the race, but I think you want to ask if she has been running consistently like Paulina and Nasir, if she would win the race. Therefore, for me, if they're all three of them, if all three of them ran the same amount of races this season, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't be so sure of who would come forth as the winner, even though there were some persons who did not call for Sydney to win it because of what we saw from Paulina and Nasir. So that is my take on that.
So it's not about the amount of time you run. It's a strategy for me with Sydney. Sydney doesn't give anyone.
Yeah, your problem.
No, Sydney doesn't give anyone to. No, Sydney's not my problem. She's very smart, but Sydney doesn't give anyone to measure her up. If you look at the Botswanian, look at the Botswanian run. They have a particular race strategy, and we spoke about it. The middle races and the middle part of the races. Nobody knew Sydney race strategy. Paulina just has to follow and figure out what is Sydney's going to do. You see, because
Sydney came into this final and allow us to be exposed to that time, having two ladies. If it is that Sydney didn't do what she do, I don't think that we would have had two ladies now under that close in to say, hey, this is possible.
47.
Yeah, this is possible. I mean, even though we would have had Paulina or Nasir winning that race, we never had the possibility of one of them running 47. So Sydney opened that door and gave us something to view.
And that's the thing as well. When other people try to mirror Sydney McLaughlin running real strategy, it doesn't work out well for them. If you go back to Paris, to the women's 400 meter hurdles final, the only athletes who ran their own races race was Anna Cockrell. Anna Cockrell was the only one who stuck to her script. Like looking at it now, had Nasa and Paulino known Sydney's race strategy and everything, I think they would have actually went out hard. They might still more than likely still would have medal and everything, but I don't think would have actually gotten the 47 and the
47.
48 one per se, because again they would have tried to mirror her strategy and say that okay, then she probably normally goes out first, fast one first 100, because looking at Sydney McLaughlin-Levroni's first 100, that was very fast. I think she ran like 11:2 or something like that. That's
Very
crazy,
fast.
crazy for a 400-meter runner. And again, we saw where Amber Anning tried to mirror her strategy as well, and didn't work out in her favor. And again, when you think about collectively, the fact that Sydney was the one who was, I would say, come and added this Rasa Dazzle in this in the women's 400 meters flat is actually added volume in the sense that hey, as Sydney doesn't compete often. Many of us as fans like that and everything. But again, let's say for instance, had she been competing throughout the season, we might have they knowing Nasa and Paulina as well. They don't like losing on the Diamond League circuit. They might have we probably would have gotten that 47 probably like from Brussels Diamond League final, and then
Long time ago.
yeah, when they got to the World Championship, it's like, oh, 48.6 wins. And not 48.6 is nothing to scoff at. You understand me? Like, I think the only person in that final actually run 48 were like Nikisha Price and Natalia Bukovechka. They were the only ones and everything, which nothing to scoff at. But I don't think we'd have seen that level of competitiveness. And the sport needs that. You understand? Like, want to see athletes compete and everything, sure. But like, you see when the dodging and everything can work for different events. But the hurdlers, the ladies in the 100-meter hurdles, they cannot dodge each other, like in the sense that hey, the person who comes six today in the Diamond League final might be the world champion next week. You understand? And that's so the unpredictability of it. And it's crazy that this season we never even get to see it. The likes of a Jasmine Camacho Queen, because when Jasmine Camacho Queen should have found her way somewhere in that final and on that podium back in Tokyo. Hopefully that she'll be better for next season as well. I missed her because I don't think people really give her enough credit in the sense that she was the one who said at the New York meet, there was a meet in New York in 2023. So she said, hey, as hurdlers, we don't duck each other. And like since then, every one of the ladies have been showing up and everything. Every single person, Danielle, Akira, Megan, various persons have been showing up all season.
Yeah, and just to note, like the women's 100-meter hurdles, I just think is a very, very special event, especially on the track, because I don't think there's any other event that sees this many athletes compete so frequently on the circuit, and like I don't think there's any other event. Maybe some of the field events, but one of the big things too is like they need that rhythm. Like they need to be in races, so it's almost like we just need to go out there and race each other because maybe we're working on something specific. Maybe I just need to build up that rhythm versus, in the 400, you may not need to race as much because you can work on what you need to do in practice. Similar in, different events. So I think there's different things to look at as it relates to, how the athletes compete. And just as Kemal said, like we may not have gotten the big, amazing performance we saw in Tokyo if we just saw all these races throughout the season, right?
Yeah, would have been too predictable. Would have been
Yeah.
too predictable. Like people be like, yeah, man, Sydney has been, and I think I made that tweet about it. I said as much as we saw like Nasa and Paulino running all season, it may come a situation in which like Sydney would have either split them somewhere, and people were like, no, she wasn't going to do that and everything, and she won. I didn't have her winning. I had her in second, splitting them, and Nasa was my third place finisher and everything. And I'm saying like, we just need that level of competition on our whole, and the fact that with Sydney, she's the biggest mystery going forward now. Like, what will next year is the ultimate world ultimate championship? Does she decide to do decide to go back to the 4 hurdles and do that and try to get the 150K, or decide that hey, why not do 200 meters and try to get your world ranking up and say here's what I'm here too and do some madness, because 21 something is in those legs. I don't know.
Oh, guaranteed.
21 what, but yeah, 21 something is in those legs.
So based on all of that, we basically just dissect the women's 400 meters, which basically in that quick wrapping up. And in final closing, if it is that we had seen 47 before World Championship and then we came and saw 48 as the winning time, we would have been disappointed. Definitely, we would have surely been disappointed because we would have said, so you give me 47 and you come give me 48. Definitely disappointed. Anderson, I want you to dissect for me the 100 meters both the female and the male. I mean, it was a given for Melissa Jefferson to have taken that, but you were there and you saw the enthusiasm, you saw everything in terms of the athletes, as you rightfully said in the opening about them going up the stairs and coming down and stuff like that. What was that like to experience, and how was that, seeing it unfold the way it did?
Yeah, I think from the from the championships, I think everyone probably had Melissa as the favorite for the gold medal, considering what she had done throughout the year. But Julian Alfred was, one that many people thought that, she would challenge her a little bit more. I will say it was very interesting because throughout the rounds, none of them actually like kind of spoke to chat. They wanted to keep very focused, as they were going through the rounds. But as we got to the semifinals, Melissa, I think she ran like 10-7 in the semifinals. So she looked very comfortable, ready to, very, very ready to be on. She was on pace for, she was on pace. And then Julian Alfred, she had run, I think, about 10-9 in her semifinal. And from my vantage point and this is kind of like where, like in the media, like I don't watch the races on TV, like I'm watching it in the stadium. So from my vantage point in the stadium, she looked very, very comfortable, even though she hadn't run as fast. But then of course we see what unfolds in the final where, we had seen Julian Alfred run 10-7 a few times throughout the year. But when we get to the final, she only finishes in third place, running 10.84 behind Tina Clayton, who runs 10.76. And then, of course, Melissa running the 10.61 for the gold medal. I think that was the biggest surprise for me in this women's 100 because I expected Julian Alfred to be, much closer and more in contention for a gold medal. Now, afterwards, we did find out that, she was dealing with with a setback. And I know there's, she hasn't confirmed, but there's, I guess, speculation that maybe what kept her, pulled her out of some Diamond League meets in the middle of the, towards the second half of the year may have been the injury that, kind of popped back up at these world champs. And then she eventually did pull out of the 200. That's, of course, a question. But overall, I think it was this 100 for the women was kind of the start of what would eventually become Melissa Jefferson Wooden, solidifying herself as the best in the world this year. Not only obviously the best sprinter, but arguably the best athlete in the world. Now, different events are going to have different discussions with, Faith Kipyegon breaking world records and all kinds of different things. But Melissa solidifying herself in this 100. And I will say, on a personal level, I was pleasantly surprised with what Shericka Jackson did and also with what Sha'Carri Richardson did. Even though Shericka Jackson, she finished fourth place here, she equaled her season's best of 10.88. I was really impressed with that performance, considering what we know that she's gone through over the past, year and a half and 2 years. So, and eventually, again, we know she pulled out of the 4x1. So clearly throughout the championships, she must have been dealing with something. So I was surprised and pleasantly surprised there. And similar with Sha'Carri Richardson, because I will be honest, coming into these championships, I was one who maybe questioned, like, okay, I'm not confident she's going to even make the final. You're right, considering she had not broken 11 seconds this year, so for her to come up and get a fifth place was really, really big. And then also, of course, I can't go without shouting out Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, before you said Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, before I was trying to stop you before you go there. I know Shelly's your girl, but you spoke about first, third, fourth, and fifth. But I want your view on our girl Tina Clayton, our national champion, 2025. What was your viewpoint of her, seeing her going through these 3 rounds? I mean, Tina Clayton is the baby of the entire 8 lines across. I mean, last year we saw her sister being the baby in there also, but she came in this year and do, what wasn't able to do by her sister last year. But so what were your view of her? And
Latoya, as well as I don't think this was mentioned too much at the championship. She actually surpassed Germany's Katrin Krebbe to become the youngest world champion. Medalist in the 100 meters. And funny thing is that 100 meter finals as well for women was very historic because like every single woman in that final, but minus the top 3 took the medal before. So when you look back in history, all those ladies would have had world championship medals.
So true, so true. That was big, and I think that was like 1991. I think was when the one from Germany. I think this was big for Tina. Obviously, it was very big, but it was interesting because throughout the championships, she was very vocal about the support that she was getting from her sister Tia, right? So Tia, of course, she got injured at the Jamaican Championship, so wasn't able to qualify for the team. She did, of course, do well, in the Diamond Leagues after, but she got back into the form, but she couldn't compete here individually. But Tia had made the final last year. Tina was speaking about how her sister was giving her kind of advice and giving her some motivation on how to approach these championships, considering that Tia had been here before. I think that was a big help for Tina to end up with the performance that she got here. And I think it's almost like a validation as well, because so I wasn't very familiar with the Clayton twins before I think I started to hear about them. Maybe since before last year. So prior to 2024, maybe I heard a little bit about them, but I wasn't very familiar. And as time went on, I learned that Tina was the quote unquote better of the twins when they were growing up, right? Like she was maybe a little bit better in terms of like the performances she put down. So this almost maybe is like a validation of like, okay, I dealt with some setbacks. I didn't make it to the Olympics last year, with my sister, but I still have it, right? I still was that young, rising talent that everyone saw before. And I'm still able to not only live up to my potential, but surpass. Like, you're in 10.76 seconds to finish, to get the silver medal. That is, obviously Melissa did her 10.6. She was gone. But 10.76 is very, very fast. Like, I think, that's like
equal with the likes of Evelyn Ashford and Veronica Campbell.
Yes.
When I said it a couple of weeks before the championship, they said she would never move her PB. And I said, I'm getting her under 10.8 this season. And she delivered because she had to deliver. She had to run that time to medal.
So and what's interesting, I obviously, I mean, she ran 10.81 at the national championships. So obviously there was an idea that she can get under 10.8, right? But I would venture to guess, I don't think many people saw her getting silver ahead of Julian Alfred, because most people expected Julian to be in form. So this performance, and it's not even that she got, like, she lived up to the expectations, right? She could have, look at all the other women in the field between, Shelly and Sharika and Talu and, even Dean Asher-Smith, Sha'Carri, all these experienced athletes, Julian Alfred and Melissa, they had medals before at the Olympics. All these experienced athletes, and your first time global championship final, and you get a silver medal in a personal best. That is big.
So there's a story behind of it. Let me tell you. And if you don't know the twins very well, they fight together and they fight to win. Coming up from not even class 3, basic school, come all the way up. If you beat one of them, guarantee the second one is coming for you. Julian beating her sister not to come championship is like, we call it sweet revenge. And it's people don't look at it that way. But it's
that
what
Julian came back and did make Tia.
Yeah, it's what drive the twins, and a lot of people don't understand. Apart from sheer talent, but it's that love and that trust. They have a trust system that they know it will happen. They trust each other like it's the best. If you ever put, and I'm fast forwarding, if you ever put back that 4x1 female under 20 team together anytime soon, that's a trust system. Soon. That's a trust system. And they develop trust.
We will be more than likely we'll be seeing the 4 of them competing as a team soon, because Kerry
Commonwealth.
MVP.
I'm begging for Commonwealth.
We have Kerry covered at MVP, Tia and Tina and Serena Coast. So the World Junior team really is a link up there. No,
don't forget we're gonna have to.
I'm expecting them to put them out for Gibson.
But don't forget we're gonna have to figure out who do we replace right in that middle, because remember it was Brianna Liston before Kerry Cahill, and then we're also going to be getting back to Mona Davis.
No, but Latoya, remember that it was the same 4 ladies at World Juniors both years. Liston was
the first one.
No, Liston Liston was only there for all Karifta.
Curved off.
Yeah,
Okay.
So,
Karifta.
so Latoya,
Karifta was
you
in
see how
Lisa.
you see her all. I'm seeing her all Edwin Allen team because Kevin wanna come back to anything close to what she was. Nobody beating her. None of the
Kevona.
juniors will beat her.
But so what do you do with what about Alana Reed? Is
No,
she still?
It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle of deciding. It's a battle. It's a battle of the
I,
juniors.
I call a
In
spade a spade. Alana should have
the battle
taken
of
the
the
opportunity
juniors,
when she got it.
but
I mean,
the battle of the juniors that will come forth again. And for me, this time though, Kemal, I feel like it's highly possible that, well, more than highly possible that Liston will actually replace Kerika because Kerika will be mostly doing the hurdles. But
but
I mean, at least we'll have options.
Latoya,
Options.
Latoya,
we may never know what MVP because
no,
like
hold on there,
MVP
Kemal.
might have a master plan
Kemal,
to turn Kerry
Kemal,
into a mini
hold,
Gail
hold the
Divas.
point, Kemal. I just told Latoya before the show start, you brought back a Megan Topper to MVP. You remember Melanie Walker? What you did with Melanie? You
Yeah,
brought Melanie up to 400 because he didn't want Melanie to compete with his quote unquote best hurdlers in the team. So he's
Bridget.
separating it. So you bring in Megan and a Kerika Hill there. You have a plan in your head that these two athletes are not going to compete in the same event
But and
because
then
I'm
also
going to lose.
remember Jenny Brown is there and also Amoy Brown is there. So we're gonna have some crazy
Jenny
things
Brown
happening in the
is.
season. We're gonna have
She's no longer
no
there.
one saw
No,
Jenny
she's no longer
Brown
there.
last year.
I think
No,
she's
Anyway,
leaving.
Jenny
I
is no
think she's
longer there.
leaving.
She's
Devian,
no
I'm
longer
going to give Anderson his baby to speak about. The moment we've been waiting for. Listen, I'd like to listen to Anderson speak about Shelley and Fraser. Let's go,
Oh
Anderson.
yes. So Shelly-Ann is arguably my favorite, one of my favorites for sure. I mean, she's one of the reasons I even watch track and
Thank you.
field. Yeah, like by far. And in my opinion, after 2019 when she won gold at the World Championships, I thought that she was the GOAT of the 100 meters. Even before everything we saw afterwards, I thought she was the greatest 100-meter sprinter ever at that point. Now, considering what she did in 21, 22, 23, and then even now making it to the Olympics last year, she obviously didn't compete after the semis and the final, and then also this year making it to the final. I mean, she just further, solidified things for me of like why she's, again, one of my favorites, and just her resiliency, her ability to show up year after year. The fact that she got sixth place in this final, I think, is a massive, massive win, right? Like I would have loved. I mean, I think many people would have loved if she got a medal, to finish off her career, right? Obviously, she got a medal in the 4x1 for on that side, but I think this is just like, I'm not sure people will truly realize like Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce is no longer in the track and field world until maybe next year or something like that. Even Usain Bolt has said that Shelly-Ann is just as big as she is, right? Obviously, she's not like household name like Usain Bolt, but in terms of the accomplishments that she's made in the sport, considering the accolades that she's been able to amass throughout her career since 2007, considering all the people that she's been able to inspire, many athletes that she's competing with now were growing up watching her, right? Like we're children watching her win medals before they even thought about getting into track and field. Like, I think her impact on the sport is massive, and we're still just a little too close to her just finishing that. I think people will need time and be like, hold on, okay, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce is actually done from track and field. She is one of the obviously greatest of all time, and yeah, just being able to see her compete that last time at the World Champs was a massive moment. This was big.
You think Nike can bribe her for ultimate?
No.
I
doubt
mean,
it.
with Shelly-Ann in her last race, she actually displayed a lot of maturity as a veteran. I think a lot of youngsters from not only Jamaican but other different countries can emulate from her in the sense that like she wasn't supposed to start the relay and she was like, here's one, like I'm going to start, this is my final race. Like it, like she was in her case, it didn't matter where she was, if the good could give her the second leg, the third leg, the anchor leg, that she just know that, okay, then my teammate is not going to compete. Okay, I'm going to slap myself in here, and did extremely well on that first leg. And I did one of the I'd said one of the better legs, for Jamaica to get that silver medal. Started her career in Osaka with a silver medal, ended in Japan, Tokyo, with a silver medal. And I mean, somebody like Shilani Fraser Price, what she has done for sport in general, not only just track and field, just showing the fact that, like, it's possible, just being a regular Jamaican, coming from Waterhouse to Wolmer's Trust High School for Girls to University of Technology there, and when competed at MVP, went to elite performance, and like has managed to stay consistent throughout her career. Like, not a lot of athletes has really achieved that level of consistency in the sport, and she has done extremely well. And I'm just hoping a lot of athletes can emulate from her, not only just her track record of excellent performances, but just mannerism and everything, just being someone of good courage, in the sense that, hey, injuries, no matter what, still show up and still managing to just give up your best effort.
All right, so my take. You can't leave me out. Let me say. So young bud
I was
no
just going
Storm.
to say something to Kemal.
So young bud no Storm, and I look at the different things that Shelly did over the championship, and for me, it's the smaller things. I don't care if she came 6th or got a silver medal. There's a moment that a lot of people didn't realize when it was. I mixed the girls up. It's Tia or Tina? Tina on the second leg.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. You realize where Tina Han was coming from? In her clothes. And people went back, and she will go back and say, Shelly said, keep my hand warm. Keep it dry as possible. And you see those little mother quality. And out of everything, we have waited years for Shelly to show those mother qualities in championship. We got the spoiled brat. We got the ones that are better than people. But this championship, we got the real person coming out, the mother of our ladies, of them all, and come out and really showed out with example and really keep them together. And out of all the championship, I think this one, without a gold medal, this one was one of the better ones for her, because I didn't see the spoiled brat. I didn't see the one that is better than everybody else. I saw somebody that was humble enough to teach the younger generation what to do and what to expect. The reigning relays are not the easiest to run in. And she got it together. And for her to decide to run that first leg, I remember a couple seasons ago when we fight over it, and they said, I'm not running because I have to run the first leg. And this year she mature enough to say, you know what, I'll take it. And that's good enough for me.
Zavian, I mean, we leave it to Zavian to do that part of the work. Always. Zavian always come out. But Kemal spoke of something that is significant. Her start in Osaka with a silver medal was also she being a part of the relay. Her end here in Tokyo, a silver medal, she also being a part of the relay. I mean, what more could we have asked for from her? What more could we have gotten from her? I mean, these young ladies is young, not just young at heart, but them young and green and fresh and ready and hungry. Not to say that she is not, but for what she has shown to us in this season 2025 is impeccable. So it's even definitely a greater way for her to take her bow and know that we definitely appreciate what it is that she has done for this little island, Jamaica, and for where she has taken Jamaica, and for what it is that she had carried on her back when it comes to Jamaica. So definitely.
And I'll just say, I also appreciate the fact that she got to end her career on her own terms, right? Obviously, last year didn't go the way that she wanted. Maybe that would have been her last year if she, competed in the final and everything. And I know people have different opinions as to, why she chose to, pull out of the semifinals at the Olympics. But regardless, now she got to qualify for the World Championships, make it to the 100-meter final, and win a silver medal, as part of the relay. And it was just how she wanted it to be. She wanted it to at least cap off her career at these World Championships. So, and this is another case for as to why having the world champs at the end of the year was good. It wouldn't have been great to see Shelly end in the middle of the season. You know, this was good.
You wouldn't have been good to see her like go over Brussels and be like, hey, you know, this is my farewell tour, and that's it and all of that.
And then come championships. Now when I get to see this part, so we dive right into the men's 100 meter. The surprise it end. I remember when we did the national trials and you were here with us. Uh, I remember I said to you that I had Oblique Seville winning the national trials and ultimately winning the world championships. And now you can say, yes, Latoya. I just can't wait. I'm sitting here you say, yes, Latoya, you were correct. You saw it and you call it. Because, I mean, there were so many things that he was showing us in spite of all that was happening or has happened, and we got to the point of hearing, so many things was happening with him, but he got it together now. Take me through that 100.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just start with Oblique getting the gold medal. You, yes, you are 100% right, and I think for me there was two things because I thought Kashane. I thought Kashane was going to be the guy, just based on obviously he was not only faster, but when I look through their careers, like Kashane had beat out obviously Oblique a few times, and then also like everyone else, like he had beaten everyone else at some point. But two main things I personally think really brought Oblique over the edge. Well, I guess three things I'll say. One is just the health. Obviously, he's dealt with injuries in the past. Obviously, at least very, very clearly at the Paris Olympic final last year, but tons and tons of injuries. So now that he was healthy enough to execute his race in the final in Tokyo, that was a big, big thing. The other thing that I think was helpful was him running 200 meters early in the season in Grand Slam track, because I think that was very beneficial to his strength, right? His speed endurance in the second half of 100, because we know that Oblique is very explosive, or at least he does get a very, very good start. Sometimes he can get run down, whether it is by a Noah or by, whoever else. So I think running 200s early on, even despite, the issues that he's had with his toe throughout the years, I think that was beneficial to him executing his race in Tokyo. And then finally, maybe one of the most important was the fact that he went overseas to compete in the Diamond League and race many of these guys who he was now racing in the final. He had not raced many of these athletes. For example, like Noah Lyles, he raced Noah last year before the Olympics at Racers Grand Prix, but that was only one time, and it was very, very close. This time in 2025, he raced Noah twice at the London Diamond League overseas. He raced him at the Lausanne Diamond League overseas, and he won these races by massive margins. And I think those were really, really big confidence boosters and builders to say, okay, I've seen what they can do overseas. I've seen what all these guys are capable of. Let me now get to this final and execute to the best of my ability. Even that little thing that happened in the heats where he was sleeping in the blocks, and he still ran 9.9 despite literally terrible reaction time. He was sleeping in the blocks, but I think based on everything he had done this year, he was ready to execute in the final. Now, for him to do it perfectly, 9.77 personal best. Now, he moves to, I think, number 5 Jamaican all time. I think this was an absolute masterclass by Oblique Seville. And on top of that, with Kashane Thompson getting the silver medal, that I think was big, even though I know some people, I completely disagree, but some people say Kashane is a choker. This is his second ever global championships ever, right? And he has 2 silver medals. Like, there are athletes throughout history who would be begging to have any medals, let alone 2 silver medals, one at the Olympics, one at the World Championships. Like, you can't discount what Kashane Thompson did here. Obviously, you can maybe debate if he would have run faster. It doesn't matter. I think him getting a silver medal was really, really big. And the fact that Oblique and Kashane went 1-2, this has not happened at the World Championships for Jamaica since it's actually never happened at the World Championships, but the last time it ever happened was the Olympics in 2012. And even then, the last time there was 2 Jamaicans on the podium was 2013, where you saw Usain Bolt and Nesta Carter.
Mr. Carter.
Nesta Carter got the bronze, and of course 2012 was Usain Bolt and Johan Blake getting gold and silver. So this was a big moment for Jamaica, big moment.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, with the men's 100 meters, that Sunday morning being here watching it, was extremely good in the sense that, Oblique Civil watching it on TV, like Oblique Civil said, put some respect to my name afterwards, like on the TV, which I found, which was good and everything. And we need that and everything. And, finally, it's like one of the thing I like about championship is that we have seen where athletes have been knocking on the doors for season after season, and their moment just finally came and they managed to mount the podium. That's a case of Oblique Civil. Fortunate for him, going forward, he has the bye to the Ultimate Championship next year and has a bye to the 2027 World Championship. So Jamaica will indeed have 4 men for Beijing 2027. Return to Beijing, like this is the return. You're returning to Beijing like for the 3rd time in my lifetime, 08, 2015 and 2017. Like 3 times the chairman Jamaica won the 100 meter twice those times as well. Kishan Thompson very much consistent on the podium again, just him just being a medalist and everything should be confidence boost should not knocking on the door saying to get a gold medal in his time. Welcome and everything. These men are on the age at 25, I would say a lot of persons might probably say you're calling this athlete a vet, but he'll have to be considered himself as a vet now. The veteran Noah has mounted the podium and actually done well and everything, knowing the fact that he has been there for the last since 2019 and everything. He's one of the elder statesmen in the field, just basically based on the way things are going and everything, like personally would have thought that Kenneth Bednarik would have been the more informed American to medal, but Noah just has that championship spirit in him, and overall it was a good final, good to see the Jamaica US back on the podium, and that rivalry continues and everything for both countries.
Yeah, I'll just quickly say, I think just quick 2 points, like you said, the Jamaica USA rivalry, because you saw 4 years of Jamaica from 2009 in terms of world champs, 2009 all the way to 2015. You saw 4 years of the United States from 2017 to 2023. Now Jamaica, I don't know if Jamaica's going to get 4 in a row again, maybe, but I think it just returns, the rivalry back to everyone, back in full form. And then also, just to note one more on Kashane, in that Kashane now having 2 silver medals is better than Asafa Powell. It's better than Michael Frater. It's better than Nesta Carter, right?
Why you do it?
Wait,
Why are you doing it?
Listen.
Why you do it?
It's not to disparage any of those guys. What I'm saying is that those are, in Jamaican track and field, those are legends, right? Like those are the guys who during the Usain Bolt era were also making the podiums. But now Kashane Thompson, at least on paper, has surpassed them in terms of the medals, and then of course, outside of Asafa Powell, he's surpassed them in terms of actual personal best. So, I think it's commendable. People shouldn't look at, oh, he has 2 silvers, he choked. He's actually doing very, very good. So just wanted to say that.
I mean, I would agree with you that he's actually doing very, very good, because he brought back that hope into Jamaica track and field for the men last year, when it is that we actually got that silver medal.
It took 7 years actually, and it just kind of crazy that when you say
with deserted
when you saying and like when you saying earn his last 100 meter medal for Jamaica, then in London, Oblique and Kishane were like 16 years old and is still running in champs and all of that. So I mean, watching you and everything, and I think the younger generation and everything, younger, fresh and everything should. There are a lot of athletes that are upcoming and everything. There's one particular athlete that I have on my list to watch the 2026, but I won't say his name as yet.
So, okay, Kemal, you have the secret sauce.
we still get Kemal to say something, trust me. But I mean, we have to.
Before we wrap up to the next topic, but for me, an Oblique it's a Netflix series. We look for stories, and the reason why I call it Netflix series because everybody calling for Netflix every time. everybody want a Netflix series of everything. And to watch, you mentioned Oblique was 16 when the last medal was won by Usain Bolt, and you could understand it's about time we have our athletes to write their own legacy. And Oblique has just written himself into history because he can tell a story from class 3, class 4, all the way up to gold medal. And far too many times we don't keep track of what happened. And Kamal, you can tell me Oblique time from class 3 all the way up, progression all the way up to gold medal. And it's a good story and a good motivation for younger athletes coming up in Jamaica, because far too many times the disparity is too wide to compare. But now you have one of your own that went through the system completely, from primary champs to boys and girls champs, all the way up to gold medal. So it's really a good story for years to come.
Well, Netflix to
Yeah,
sign up.
and I mean,
Netflix Jamaica calling you out. I'm just saying, Netflix
yeah, I
Jamaica
mean,
is
like
calling you out.
going forward for Oblique Civil and everything, it him being getting a buy for 2027 World Championship. I think we will see how is managed better going into the World Championship and everything for 2027 to defend his title. All things being equal, I'd love to see him next season over the 200 meters, just to see him hit flirt 19.9, 19.8 thereabout and everything. Would want to see if he's fit enough to even double one of these championships, even at least twice.
Or even at the
Yeah,
trials, or
even
even at the
2020,
trials.
27, 2028 thereabout, as that would be the perfect time, for him.
But you guys missing the main sauce of the of the pudding, because guess what? Up you we start getting nicer females. So Oblique have to show up to training.
Two Pelicanas might no, like trust me, like I was
training now.
when
You
no,
want to be the
like
man at the
Zavian
camp.
understand. I've seen Oblique train on campus before, like when my classes.
He has to be the man at the camp, So I have to
My
come
classes
out.
were near to near to the track and everything. I went down there, like the training down there in the mornings very much tough and everything. And the ladies are over there now. We have the World Championship.
Yeah, before it was all male, predominantly
yeah,
male.
it was all male until it got Toby over there, and now we have Kevon as well.
Yeah, so him have a show for the females. Men are like hunters, So
yeah, it's kind of similar to when Rosemary White, Robinson was over there at the time.
I have one question for the 100 meters for you. What was the atmosphere like? What was the tension like when it is that the stadium realizes that Leslie Tobogo, schoolboy Tobogo, actually
jump out of the blocks?
Yeah, I think that it was surprising. It was very surprising. People were very, very shocked. I mean, first off, I mean, it was very clear. There was no debate on who false started. But I think initial reaction was hopefully it wasn't Oblique or Kashane or Noah. I think that's what a very split second reaction, what most people, and then it was okay, it's Letsile. Now, that's not to say that it's okay, Letsile. I think people realize that he could have been a medal contender. I mean, if he just runs he didn't even have to run a personal best and he would have medaled here, right? His best is 9.86 from the Olympics last year. And then we saw what he did in a 200 running 19.6. So, people were it was a little shocking. And then it added some tension into the stadium because it's okay, someone false started. Now we can't have anyone else do that because we just got the field is a little bit smaller. And you can almost, or at least I could almost feel the weight of this is a big moment because you had the Jamaicans, you literally had Noah in 4, you had Kashane in 5, you had Kenny B in 6, you had Oblique in 7. It was USA, Jamaica. This was a very, very heavy, okay, what is going to happen? So I know right before the race went off, it was a big, big moment. And then even as things finished, I'll say once Oblique crossed the line, everyone was celebrating because even if people didn't pick Oblique to win the gold medal, it's everyone wanted him to win the gold medal. So, that was big. It was very heavy in the stadium for sure.
It was sad, but it was happy for me to have not had Mr. England boy run down ugly this time around. Not like man. I beg him, man. I beg him. I beg him. Hey, Zanel run down oblique every time, you know. As Zanel was the little thing we form against oblique in those finals. Every time Zanel run down oblique, but it was great. Take me through what you think happened for the 200 meters. I mean, we saw our boy, our national champion in that 200 meters, came out and laid down his mark, coming in and letting person say, yo, I mean, I know what we think it's a go. But it went the way Noah wanted it to go because Noah decided, say, okay, I already gave Jamaica 1-2 and then beat me bad. You know, I'm gonna take that beating there, but sorry, puppy. Sorry. So what was your thing? Yeah,
I think with in the 200, it's hard. It's hard to say that anyone was going to beat Noah Lyles. The thing is, Noah in the 200 has proven that he's able to control the race no matter what is going on, no matter how the race actually does play out, no matter who's next to him. Because even in this specific race, at 130, 140 meters, it was all four of these guys, Noah, Kenny, Brian, and Letsile, essentially all next to each other. But Noah is able to find a way despite anything. And sure, he didn't run as fast. I know one of the narratives is, he hasn't run faster than 19.5 in a final outside of, his personal best of 19.3 from 2023. But for Noah, it doesn't matter. I think he's able to show up and execute in a 200 better than anyone else. I think just Noah is able to show up. Kenny B getting another silver medal. This was his fastest time that he's ever run at a global championships, 19.58. I think this was a big performance for him, especially coming off the 100 where he was, disappointed getting fourth place, didn't run as fast as he could have there. So this was big for him, even though it's another, his fourth silver medal at a global championships. But a big performance, he still has a, bright future. And then with Brian Lavelle, I think Brian Lavelle executed as close to perfect of a championships as you're going to get, going from 19.8 to 19.7 to 19.6 and a personal best in the final. I mean, for someone who, even though this was his second global championships, right? He made the semifinals at the Olympics last year, but there was, I don't know, but I'm assuming there was a good amount of pressure because he had run 19.69 early. Well, even before then, he had run the 19.7, the windy one, early in the year. He wins national championships after the issues in the 100, and then he runs 19.69 in Hungary. And as he's going through the rounds, it's like there's more and more building of like, oh wow, 19.8 and 19.8, 19.7. Slowing down, like he is very comfortable in the second half of the race. So I think all this pressure was almost building to see, oh, could he get the gold medal? Could he do this? Could he do that? I personally think Brian Lavelle executed, I want to say it's like almost a perfect championship, in terms of what he needed to do. Like, how many people can say that they got better every single round and ended with a personal best, one of the fastest times, in history. So this was big for Brian Lavelle. And the last thing I'll say is just how fast this overall race was, where you had 19.5, 19.5, 19.6 didn't get on the podium. Letsile runs 19.65 and does not get on the podium. I did not think that was going to happen. Zarnell Hughes runs 19.78 and doesn't get on the podium. That has never happened before. You know what I'm saying? So this was an insanely fast race.
Another weapon. Zarnell got a weapon that form against him in this one. I mean, Zarnell was always in the way. Listen, man, I love Captain. I love Captain. But Captain always was the weapon we formed against Civil. So I'm not perform against him this time. Not to say that I wanted that, but I mean, it was a great race indeed. I mean, we saw all that had happened in Tokyo, and we thank you so much for sharing that. Now we are moving into the last meet of the season or of 2025 in its entirety. I mean, a meet that is now on year number 2. So I wouldn't even say it is slightly still a baby, but it's growing itself or improving as it go along. I mean, and that is Althos. You will be covering Althos for both days. We saw some new names dropping in and joining. in the excitement. And I mean, this is definitely money. We can talk about it. This is definitely money. You get your money in quick
Three
time.
days.
You know, you need cash now, call Althos, right? At least if you don't need cash now, call Althos. You know, we're not calling JG Wentworth, we're calling Althos because they're giving the cash immediately. And I like that. I like that. And I hope that it continues to improve. But can you explain or explore Althos for us in quick
Yeah,
rapid?
so this is the second year of it, and it's going to happen in New York City. Last year, it was well, it same thing as this year, but held at Icon Stadium. And last year was just one day, one evening. This time, it's going to be 2 days, and on the first day, they're going to have the long jump in Times Square, so in the middle of Times Square. And as I understand, that is going to be free to the public for everyone to be able to come see. And then, of course, they'll the second day is going to be the actual track meet in at Icon Stadium. And also note the long jump in Times Square is going to be like the qualifying, and then I think the top three athletes from Times Square, they end up going to compete for the final for the winners pot at the day after on Friday. So, and I think with this, it's a very kind of like it's like I think like almost glamorous in a sense where the women are treated like superstars, and they if you win you get a Tiffany crown. Obviously they get a massive payday. They do like their makeup before and like all kinds of things to make them feel like superstars and to make the meet really feel very grand. This last year there was Meg Thee Stallion performing. This year there's Sierra, so it's like a full concert. And it's at night, so it is specifically starting and ending at night, so it kind of gets that visual of like New York City background, the lights and everything. So I think it's really good as a meet. Last year I really enjoyed it. I'm excited to see what it's going to be like this year as well. I think it's really great as a one-off meet. I do have questions though about its future as a league, because and probably this is after coming off Grand Slam track. Considering how much money is being poured into Athlos, and then now next year it's going to be a full blown league, and obviously we know that Athlos has the money because Alexis Ohanian, who's like the one spearheading it, like he's a very wealthy person and he's able to invest into something that he's creating. Now, if you're renting out Times Square for the long jump and it's going to be free to the public, is that going to provide the return to justify, okay, can I keep doing this year after year? And if you're doing this as a league, I don't, they haven't provided many details about what that league next year will look like, but that's just my only hesitation. Again, I really like the experience, as it was last year, and I'm excited for this year as it's been a one-off meet. But I guess in the future, I wonder what things will look like, going forward.
So looking at it, it's a blueprint for Grand Slam, or Grand Slam was a blueprint for it last year. And what Grand Slam should have done is what they are doing now. You keep those one-off meet, peak the interest of, and in marketing you try to figure out what the market is like. I think I don't expect every year to get that jump in Times Square. I think this year is really just peaking everyone needs. What I've realized in the US when it comes on to track and field, they are competing with the household names sports, the baseball, the NFLs. They want to make sure track and field become a household name before LA 2028. And a lot of people are investing in it because it's a big investment. I always tell everyone that US need return on investment now, because every high school or middle school, you have a 8-lane track. You have a track in every school, pretty much in every town. So they're looking return on investment now when it come on to track and field. So I don't think USAF, wherever it come from, USAF will take it, because it's really saved them the trouble of trying to market LA 2028 when it comes around with these small persons, not small meaning these small persons in the realm of track and field, but have money to be able to spoil the sports a little bit. So they won't mind you paying out money to pique the interest to say, you know what, we're going to fly to LA. We're going to buy out these tickets come LA 2028. So I don't think it's a future plan. It's forward thinking when it comes on to track and field in the US. And I think USAF is allowing these entities to come in to help them to market track and field and market the sports a little bit better. Um, if they have money, spend it. The females deserve it.
Yeah, I think, and I generally agree. I actually do agree, especially as it relates to USATF. I do though wonder, especially when you say if you have money, spend it. This isn't someone in track and field who's spending their money, right? This is someone who's coming from outside of track and field. At like, Alexis has been very open about the fact that he is just learning a bunch of things about the sport. I remember even a comment last year. He asked like, why is it that the athletes run around the track in that direction? Why don't they go backwards? And and
so when it comes on to business, and I'll tell people I like the business side of sport. We need these investments. The sport need these investments. I don't need you to learn. I don't need you to know how long is the track, how many times around the track. I need your money. I need your investment. And guess what? I think in any great thing, you have to start somewhere. And I think that he has sat down and thought about this investment and the return on investment. And if any business person going into anything would have sat down and do their books and do their forecasting and see the potential. And me and Latoya argue over it all the time. And I'll tell you, my concept with Nike and Puma is that they're not signing athletes to win gold medals. They're signing athletes to market their brand, because an advertisement for Nike to put on TV is $1 million. To sponsor an athlete is 500,000. The athlete is going to be on TV for an hour competing. Nike could never pay that hour time on television and mainstream TV. So the athletes are just a pawn in all of this when it comes on to these things. So I think that he realized that there's a niche market in track and field, and he's taking it. Far too long, people that know it was there didn't do anything about it. I have the money, I have the capital to invest. I'm going to take all of it, and I think it's a great thing to come, because for this luxury, I'm expecting him to have the king of track next year, Pamper the Mills.
Well,
Yeah.
Go ahead, come on.
And one of the things that I've always believed with Althos, as much as you're catering, two things I'd say: you're catering for a female audience and everything, which is great. I think last year there was some trash talking with, I think, like Fred and Vernon and Matthew Hudson Smith, like saying who could beat each other over 300 meters. Althos could have basically gotten them and said, here's what, this is an all women's meet, but you're going to do an exhibition event, pre-program event like the Diamond League that say, hey, sorry, we're going to have, like you guys do, 300 meters of some sort. And I think them getting paid, like all three of them would have showed up as well. I watched a video with Anderson yesterday that's saying that, hey, Althos trying to transform into a league. I get the concept and everything, but again, the timing. Are you going to, is the league going to start before the championship, and then you have 2 meets for the championship, and a meet after? Or like a big grand finale per se, like at the end of the season, like we're having now this one meet. I think with more money for women and everything, more money for the sport, but it will force a lot of athletes to tailor their seasons a lot different, in the sense that quality of athletes might differ, in the sense that some women might get invited to Althos, some women might be the Diamond Secretary. I've seen where Grand Slam was good and everything, but like again, weekends will clash. Like you understand, there was a Diamond League meet in China the same weekend that Masai Rosa broke the American record. And again, that clash and everything. Granted, as track fans, we love to see track and everything, but at the same time, having too much meat can be very much confusing, as well as even having a meet like after the championship, way after the championship, we're in October now. as fans, we love the sport and everything, but we get fatigue as well. Like we mentally clock out and be like, okay, giving the sport like an 8 week, 8 to 12 week, we're going on our quote unquote off seasons per se, just to get back in time for indoors and everything. And it can be very much consuming and everything. Like, how will this league eventually become successful in the long run?
Kamal, I can answer that question. Money talk. And we don't speak much about the politics of track and field and who's been paid off and who need to get paid to make things happen. And if you have money in the sport and you're going to invest money in the sport, I bet it will happen. And you're going to get the backing of USAF, and they're trying to get this backing of a great nation, a nation that didn't pay attention to track and field over the years and now trying to pay attention. The world need to start being worried about it. Diamond League Europe is worrying about USAF wanting to create a league in the US, because now money is going to be invested in track and field on this hemisphere that going to move, that the athletes from this part of the world we might not need to come to Europe anymore to make money, to make their living. It's cheaper to fly to the US, cheaper to fly to the 50 states and make their money instead of going to Europe on a 9-hour flight.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I guess I think just what I'm looking at is like, what will this league look like next year? We don't have enough details to say. And obviously details will roll out over the next couple months, I guess. Maybe, we'll find out more in the next week after this Althos meet goes down. But I am very curious because there's never been a league in track and field similar to that of other major sports like NFL, NBA, MLB, et cetera, et cetera. And that is at least my understanding of what they're trying to create with Althos. And it's going to take a very, very big investment. And it's not an investment that's just like, okay, this is 1 year, this is 2 years, this is 3 years. This is a long-term investment. And who knows if the return will actually come back. That's, I guess, where I do kind of like have questions. And it really is, of course, coming off of Grand Slam track, because we saw, it's really unfortunate, but we saw articles where it's like you had investors attend the meet in Kingston and say, okay, we're not going to invest because we can see that we're not going to get our return. Again, I think what Alexis is doing with Althos and investing in track and field, but women's sports, and I think he has like a very, very noble intentions. But I guess it's just like logistically, I am interested to see what will occur. And even to Kamal's point, where according to them, this league will happen at the end of the season after, next year's World Championships, next year's World Ultimate Championships. Like, apparently it'll happen completely after, so there's no conflict. But that means that athletes are still preparing for what they need to do throughout the regular season. Yeah. So are they going to be putting their best effort for Althos, or are they just going to come for a payday? Right. So that, all these kinds of things on a whole will be interesting to see how they play out as we lead towards, like you said.
And the question will also stand: when will athletes know that they will be committing to this Althos, being that, it can't be after the final event you're knowing that you're committing to it. So it would also need to be known early. I'm also in anticipation of how it is that the league will go. And because of the fact that he is not a track person, I do believe, and I know that he would have been sitting down with track fanatics and track persons surrounding that. Because for me, there's a lot of improvement as it relates to the track aspect of it for us to get something more substantial, even though the main part of it is for the women to get paid. But then at the same time, we want them to be paid. We want them to be healthy so that when it comes back around for them to do what they need to do in the normal timing, they're able to do that. So I am curious and waiting to hear what is the thought space behind it, same as how we were curious about Grand Slam. And definitely, if it is that he can make it into a league and one that can stay, I know it would be one that will challenge the Diamond League. So therefore, also that again will also pose some form of contention, some way, somehow, and getting it into what it is that needs to happen. But I'm here for it. I thank you so much for that.
There's one real last thing I do want to say. The reason even like I said, where Alexis isn't as well versed in track and field, the focus is the money. I do, again, we are like track and field fans. So even if there is like a bad meet or a poor meet or something that's not as entertaining, we're still going to stick around. But if someone who's not a core track and field fan and they're just, kind of putting their money in and investing in, I'm not like disparaging Alexis in any way, but if their reason is like, okay, I want to invest in this, are they going to stick around if they're not seeing obviously the return, but then also just the enjoyment, right? Like you're not always going to get this like these amazing performances, and like you're not always going to get that. We'll be here to keep watching because we love track and field, but someone outside may not.
And I think before you go on, Latoya, and I think that's what was the problem with Grand Slam, the dollars and cents and the love of the sport. We need a business person to run an event, not a sportsman. You need to understand the dollars and cents of it. So he might not enjoy the event, but he can see the dollars and cents of the event. He's okay. So we might say we're not getting the spectacular time. He's like, I'm getting rich. So he stayed around. So you have to understand. I think one of the things that is an ever-changing thing in track and field, and my thing with all of this is the new norm. We got comfortable with indoors, Diamond League, World Championship. We might not see our athletes running that much anymore. We might not see our athletes do the Diamond Leagues anymore because they will calculate and say, you know what, I'm starting my season in July. I'm going to my trials. I'm going to go to championship, and there's a big payday coming. And it comes down to, in any business, you're prepared for what coming, and you sign your contract, you send out the letter of invitation, and you plan accordingly. So I would say, guess what? It's just that it will take away from the conventional way that we were doing things in the past. So that Diamond League that we were looking forward to, we might not see it anymore. That not even the Diamond League, those Silver League and the gold meets that the IWF was trying to bring across to different places of the world is going to suffer because we won't get those quality athletes going into those meets anymore, because guess what? They are looking for paydays greater than those meets. So they'll go to the Diamond League for now and then sparingly run. But those smaller events that we would expect them to come to races, we expect them to go to Japan, we expect them to go to Africa to run these gold meets, go to Australia and New Zealand to run these meets to develop the sport. We're not going to get that from our superstars anymore in the future because there's big paydays coming in different meets.
I understand and I agree with you, Zavian. So there's so much things to come in the track world for us to see and for us to basically take onto, or us as fans to throw aside, or as Emerole said, continue to embrace what it is that comes. Del Olivier said, hi, Emerole, and also saying it's great to see the collaboration. Hope that Track and Field Tonight invites she said Emerson, but he's okay with it because I called him that. And then she went and corrected and said Emerole, sorry. She's hoping that we invite Emerole back again and again because he's honest and very knowledgeable about the beloved sport. Once it is that Emerole accepts our invitation, so far he has been coming and we are grateful for that. And we will continue to have him here. He's partially becoming a set family member, resident. We're over here.
We'll give away free passports.
Sure. Oh, God. And just in closing, we just want to take a little peek as best as we can in the enhanced games. I mean, it is since it has been announced, and when it was just announced, we weren't following it up. But since one of our former world champion, one that has made the sport.
I'd say Mr. Everything, Mr. All-Purpose. Everything. 100, 200, 400, world champion, Olympic silver medalist, NCAA champion, the list goes on and on and on. US
champion. Mr. Everything has decided that he is going to put his hand or his hat or his feet into
his entire body.
The track fraternity has now become alarmed and awakened by it. I mean, I feel like we weren't embracing it. We weren't looking at it. We know it exists, but we just put it over there up on the shoulder. But he has now brought it to the fore because here it is that he has said, hey, I'm going to be a part of it. That was a surprise for me because I felt like he was going into baseball. But only for hear him come out and say, oh, I signed on to the enhanced games. I don't know what we think here.
So let me start. Let me start, Latoya. So I'll start. I like to start. So one key point to start the discussion. Cred Curly
Fred.
is Fred.
Fred Curly.
No, look
Fred
here.
Curly.
Can't call his name correct. Call him Mr.
Mr. Curly.
Please,
Sorry.
he will take your
I'm not sure who he's sponsored by. He's sponsored by ASOS. No,
He doesn't have a sponsor
He
anymore.
doesn't have
He
a
doesn't have a
sponsor
sponsor
anymore.
anymore. Okay, so that takes my thought space out of the game. It thought space out of the game.
No longer.
But for me,
Wonderful. I know where you were going, though.
anything to pay and the money part of anything, it's a good. I'm game for it. The only thing people call it different things. I did my research. I read about it. It's gonna open a can of worm. In different things. One of the things that I would like World Athletics to do very quickly is to look at the legal aspects of it and how they're going to mitigate. For example, a Cred Curly decide he's going to run, or you're going to bar him to compete. You're going to start looking at it. You have to look at the legal aspect of what you're going to do and cover your bases to protect our sport. And that's where I have to start. You got to start look at the legal aspect, because if Fred decides to compete, what rule do you have to not put him at the start line? Do you test him before you run?
Okay.
Or test him after you run?
Okay. All right, we hear you. Come on.
Let me just say that I understand what Zavian is saying and everything regarding, the pocket, because track and field is really a broke sport. Money can be made from it, if you're smart enough, if you have a good agent, if you have a good team and everything. For prime example, use Asafa Powell. Asafa Powell may not have been as successful a lot of his counterparts, but still managed to actually achieve a lot, financially from the sport. In Fred's situation and whole, it will somewhat damage the credibility of track and field in the sense that he is a world champion and a double Olympic medalist in the premier event of the sport, the 100 meters and everything. Is in the middle of a doping suspension as well, which it is even worse. It's not a situation in which he wasn't in the middle of a doping suspension and everything, and he's
and the doper
mistest. Sorry, mistest. Let me just say mistest on a whole, and it will look bad and everything. Like fans and general public will look and say, "Hey, you missed this and everything." So much like you were doing something of that nature. Again, morally is not necessarily the best approach to take, but he has money to make. And like, as a fan of sport, like as a track fan as well, overall, I am going to be tuning into the enhanced game to see what is going to happen. Like, just to see just to see the game itself and
see how fast people can really run.
Yeah,
9.4.
that's what Fred said on his Instagram.
I mean, I think I can I actually think, Zavian, you make a good point. Before I address that, I think overall it's just not. This is unfortunately not a good look for any athlete, because Fred Curly is in a unique situation where he was formerly sponsored by ASICS. He lost that sponsorship last year. He then was sponsored by Nike, but due to various different things that occurred this year, he lost that sponsorship. So he had no, major shoe sponsor. And then, of course, the whereabouts, suspension came about, which led him to, now joining the enhanced games. I don't think many athletes are going to follow that track going into, joining the enhanced games, unless they're in a very, very unique situation like a Fred Curly. Initially, I did think of the world, and this is going to get to what you were mentioning, Zavian, where I thought of a world where, let's say that certain athletes, like someone who's really, really good in track and field, says, okay, maybe I'm gonna jump into the enhanced games because I know I don't have to take anything and I could still beat out some of these guys and I can make a lot of money. And then I'm just gonna come back to track and field and get tested and whatever. Even if World Athletics can't come up with something very clear to say, okay, you can't compete here after competing in enhanced games, because that can get very tricky, just like legally. But the shoe sponsors, I think they won't have anything to do with the athlete, which will be more detrimental to them. I don't think the athletes will be able to go to the shoe sponsor and say, hey, I was dropped because of this, and then have as much of a legal pathway as they would for a World Athletics. That's where I just think most athletes are not even going to entertain the idea of going to the enhanced games, even if in their mind they're like, okay, I don't have to actually, cheat. And yeah, who knows? I don't know.
So a part of the enhanced game is the type of shoes you compete in. Nike has a few shoes that allow you to go faster. That is not allowed to use. They have different spikes that you can't use and different makeup of shoes. I forgot what the name is. I didn't research on it, but there's there are a couple shoes that were banned from running in the marathon and stuff, and these are going to be allowed in the sport. So when you say shoe sponsors take themselves away from it, I don't think it's a good marketing strategy.
Not take themselves away from enhanced,
but guess what? I look at it this way.
In terms of when they come back. In terms of when they come back, the shoe company may not want to be associated.
Remember when I said that shoes company don't go into this business for you to win. It goes in it to market. And if they can get into a market to sell shoes and increase their market share, see that word? Increasing market share in a particular market is very important. So it's a thin line in what they want to do or what they want to stand for. Because in the same breath, they're going to produce the shoes that you can run faster in. And in the same breath, they're telling you not to take drugs. Because my thing is, and this is my take on it, and it's worrying. Mr. Armstrong, for years, Tours de France, for years, he was on drugs until he told them that he was on drugs. I'm using my name. Zavian Duncan takes steroids, go run the enhanced game, win. I come back and run the 100 meter for Jamaica or the US, break the record. You test me and can't find what I took. What does that say for the sport?
That's terrible.
So there's different thing. It opening a can of worms.
Because it's not, and also Zavian, you have a point, because it's not necessarily that they can't find it, but I feel
there's a lot of masking agents.
They may be looking for certain things that is on their list, and therefore something else will come up, but because they're not looking specifically for those, it was bypassed.
So for enhanced game is for World Athletics to tighten their procedures and policies to make sure that they can protect the sport and have a clean sport. For me.
I think most athletes will still just stay away from it. I think World Athletics will probably have to make sure they tighten, whatever. But I think the idea of the enhanced games is so that you can compete here with the things that are already banned from in regular track and field. So the things that are easily, accessible, not even forget masking agents, and I don't even think it's things like, I mean, maybe people will take like steroids and stuff, but like even just general stimulants or like, those kind of like little things that may give you a slight advantage. I think that's where if certain athletes, and when I say athletes, I'm not talking about everyday people. I'm talking about like athletes who may have been former athletes or are just not, competing on the highest level. I think they would lean towards taking those things to then compete in the enhanced games to get, a lot of money. And then once you come back to track and field, I think at that point you're going to be banned because those general things that are already on the banned list are going to be well known. I don't think it's going to be like the little kind of like more obscure things that aren't as like technology or, the testers aren't able to kind of like pick up on now. And I do think they'll get to a point, like World Athletics will get to a point. I don't know legally, but I'm pretty confident they'll get to a point where it says, if you compete in enhanced games, you can't compete for world athletics. You can't compete. I think they'll find a way, and they'll find a way to be legally sound, because even the way that the enhanced games are promoting themselves, it's like like people taking, the biggest and things in terms of like I saw like some swimmer they had
Yeah,
was
the
like
swimmers,
giant,
the
like
swimmers did it, but you have to understand, and the reason why we're having this discussion is because Mr. Curley decided to jump into the whole spam of it.
Yeah.
Like when I read about like the swimmers retire from their sports. They go into retirement, or persons will come out of retirement. They are not expecting to compete again legally.
Well, maybe Fred
Yeah,
not expect
so
to come back to
we
our
might
side
we
of the
might say
world.
that we are wondering if any of our athletes will just decide, you know what, let me go try this sport. I can't. So use Jamaica as an example. No, hold on.
No, no, no,
I'm
no, no,
using
but I no,
Jamaica
no,
as an
no, 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 no,
example.
no, but I use Jamaica. Use
No,
somewhere else, please. Use somewhere else.
you can't break. You cannot
You
make a
cannot
Jamaican team because of the quality that we have.
Jamaica.
Every time you go
No,
trials, you
no,
cannot make
use
the
somewhere
finals. You don't
else.
even get going to the East.
Use Fred, man. Use Fred.
No, it's a door for making money. To be honest, it's a door to make money, and a lot of people gonna put it out there because you've been competing for years and can't even break 10 seconds, and somebody's gonna pay you to say, you know what, take an FDA supported jugs and try to break 10 seconds and make some money.
But I think your reputation is just shot at that point. Like I think that is really, really big for people, and especially even if you're like a fringe athlete or something, I think your reputation will be shot. Even if you don't actually take something, the fact that you're being associated with the enhanced games, it's not even like they're trying to hide it. They're literally called the enhanced games. I think athletes, people don't want their reputation to be like that. Even everyday people, right? Like even you were talking about like the shoes that Nike has that are you can't use in like official competition, but like everyday runners are able to use some of those different shoes when they run like a marathon or a 5K or something like that. But that's very different from drugs or cheating. Like I think those are different realms that people are okay being associated with. Like, okay, yeah, I can run in like these shoes that are, a little bit better for me, versus I'm going to use some sort of, some stimulant or steroid or something to enhance my body. So I'm like drastic. Like I think people look at that very, very differently, very differently. So
if Fred now run 9.5 right now, 9.6 right now, you have to go use
what?
some for 9.4. Fred just decide that he might go down. Kino saying all of it is connected. Value for money is dependent on greater performances, but those great performances are linked to timing. And when this meet is held, they won't get the best in October. Revenue lower. Agree. The money. We'll come back to the money.
Yeah,
the
but
money.
but remember that we spoke about, it's a person that is investing in track and field that doesn't care about if you run 15 seconds for 100 meter. You just care that you're not going anti-clockwise around the track. So,
hey, Zavian, give me a last words, please.
Short.
Don't give me the anti-clockwise.
It's a good show. It's good to have a payday. I love the different investment in track and field. We ventured into Althos and we ventured into the enhanced meet. Ethical or unethical, that's where it stands. If you state the rule that we're going to use it, it's not wrong. Because you already state they're not cheating if they decide to agree to it. And it's all about so for me it's ethics. And it boils down ethics and money when it comes on to track and field right now. What are you going to do to make your payday? We saw our athletes went to Turkey for money. People might not run until the end of the season to make the money.
October, I have Turkey already in June. Thank you.
It's Thanksgiving now.
Lorraine is asking basically for us to just explain the off year, because she was asking if the Ultimate Championship isn't coming up. So she mean that Ultimate Championship is next year.
All right,
Why
so
do
for
we
the
call it
Ultimate Championship, it's actually the best 16, right?
16.
Based on 16
Best
words,
16.
based on world rankings. rankings for the 2026 season. A lot of athletes, once you're three type of athletes get by already. Once you're the reigning Olympic champion, the reigning world champion, and the Diamond League champion for 2026, along with that's minus 16 minus 3, that's 13 athletes, other 13 athletes based on the rankings. It will have 2 rounds of competition. So again, in a situation you might have a 100-meter competition where there's probably like 5 Jamaicans, 5 Americans instead of usual 3 or 4, based on wildcards and everything like that. Again, it's a selected thing. So even if you win a national championship with the world leading time, if you're not ranked in that top 16, you will not obviously be in that quota for the world championship. And the fortunate thing for the ultimate championship, as much as it's an exclusive event, is just 2 rounds. Two rounds of events and everything for track and everything. So for instance, now it will allow if an athlete is just going there to do 100 meters, they'll just only go there to do the 100 meters, and then there's the mixed 4x1. There's not a straight 4x1 or 4x4 on the schedule as well. So you can go there and get a good payday. You might probably go there and run 4 races for a good week, and then make some good money.
And then to explain, it's really not an off year. We just don't have any world championship or any Olympic, but we do have the Commonwealth next year, which I think is going to be a big deal for young athletes, upcoming athletes, and even some senior athletes that need to just sharpen their skills a little bit better next year for us. So we will still have our junior championship and senior championship next year.
Yeah. And again, the good thing about the off season is that we get athletes to doubling up and switching, and they will excitement. So probably next year,
maybe we'll see Sydney McLaughlin
or the 100 as well. Might say Anna Hall.
Hey, come
might say
down,
Anna
man.
Hall dip into the 400-meter hurdles as well. Might say Nikisha Price down to the 2, and in the level of excitement and everything. Right, Benjamin has announced next year that he will be in the 2 and the 4 as well. So that's something that has excited about the off season as well. 19.9 run, and I think 44.2 run. I think
44.2. Yep.
Was ranked as the top American in both events in 2023. Yeah.
So Lorraine said that she doesn't enjoy the Commonwealth. Let me tell you that. I will tell you, Lorraine.
No, but she give her reasons because she said US.
Let me tell you, Lorraine, look forward to it. The Commonwealth countries are coming. You see what the Botswanian did in World Championship? They are part of the Commonwealth. Pay close attention to the Commonwealth countries. Botswana just need to put it together for the sprints, and they have a team. So it's a good event to watch.
I mean, if it's
who knows, we might see Botswana running a 4x1 with those 4x4
yeah,
men.
because it's a Commonwealth, the Commonwealth
and
and all that, and anybody, the quality of Commonwealth, those 4 men can probably do some good practice and make it to the final Commonwealth as well. And the thing about this too, just remember that Commonwealth has like even some of the best female hurdlers. So if you can probably get Akira, Megan, Daniel, at the likes of even Devin Charlton, etc. Like Toby Amusan as world record holder, can imagine that too.
Yeah,
fantastic stuff.
Yeah, so and because it's an off season, maybe US will be.
I'll just last thing I'll say, just to keep in mind also, is it will be interesting to see how many athletes choose to compete throughout the year and how often, because we're coming off 5 consecutive global championships now, right? From 2021 all the way to 2025. So I wouldn't be surprised if certain athletes are very selective. Maybe they compete 1 or 2 times where it's like, you can.
And
maybe they just show up for Commonwealth and 1 other time. Maybe they just show up, for 1 race and then Diamond League final or for World Ultimate Championships, so that they can want to maintain themselves for the next World Championship Olympic cycle, after these 5 consecutive championships. So that'll be something to kind of keep an eye out for.
And because you said who may not, you just don't know who may show up. Kina said we might see Elaine back. Hello, Althos.
You never know.
I'm just playing on that. Just because you said
you
might see Elaine back. Althos, you just may never know. The body may have recovered
the last
well.
Point from me tonight.
Yeah, and bear in mind, she has won the double Commonwealth.
She's the Mrs. Double.
She's a double reigning Commonwealth
double Olympic champion, double.
She
likes to double, so she might just come back for a double
champion as well. we may never know.
And she may just come back for the
Yeah,
double.
the last point from me tonight, I think like, and with Athos this week ending the week and everything, I'm not necessarily expecting anything fast per se. Just a good bit and everything. Good quality times and good quality marks in the long jump, but not necessarily expecting a lot of fast times. It has been an extensive season for a lot of these athletes. So be doing indoors, outdoors, Grand Slam, Diamond League, Continental Tours, Nationals, Worlds. It's quite a lot on them on a whole, and just continue to support the athletes and to support the ladies as per usual. In the next year's on, for many of us as track fans, it's an off season per se, but we still have a lot to come with, like World Indoor Championship. We still have the NCAA's, National Championship, Diamond League. Who may or may not know, Grand Slam might make a comeback in 2026.
No.
Women just may never know. Honestly, we may never know. We have seen miracles happen before.
Miracles.
Yeah, that's it for me.
We'll move from the hope.
They don't need water to turn to wine. They need stone to turn
anything
to
is
coins.
possible. Just have to believe.
Kemal right into Anderson's last word. Kemal,
Yeah. Yes, just to
but I'm not done with the money yet.
yeah,
But
we'll see. We're all rooting. We'll see. But I think just overall, yes, Athos is the last meet of the year. I'm very excited. I'll get a chance to be there. But I'm very, very excited. Based on what I saw from the 2025 season. I think this was an amazing season across the board, from all the way from indoors to the outdoor season, and then of course to the World Championships. So many athletes put together, amazing seasons, some of the best seasons in track and field history in some cases. So I'm excited to see how things translate into 2026, and then leading up to the next Olympics, in next Olympic cycle, at least 2028. So yeah.
thank you so much for that. I am excited to see what 2026 brings and look forward into 2027 as it comes along. I mean, definitely once we have a season, once it is track time, it's track time, and we get into the groove of things and cover that as well, and to see what comes and who comes. I'm excited to see new fresh faces come forth, to see the battens changing. I mean, we saw the Shelley change baton with the new and upcoming. We also got an opportunity to peek into Mary Jose Talou, basically, even though she didn't say, hey, this is my last time, but the fact of her encouragement to her fellow Ivory Coast athlete, pushing it. But the great part of it is that she was not only doing it to one, but to many. So we're seeing the guards changing and changing comfortably. So we're excited for what comes and for who comes forward for us to celebrate the lovely sport that we have in track and field, and where it brings us and how it grows as it continues. So definitely. Here at Track and Field Town, we want to say thank you so much again, resident family. And now we're gonna have to start calling you resident for sure, for being here with us, and giving us your knowledge and your expertise and your experience. We are grateful to have that, and we are looking forward here also to see you up and out on the final leg for Althos for the 2 days that is to come. And we wish for you great safety and enjoyment, even though we not get to be there, but we know you will do what you do best.
Thank you. Thanks. Always will
Definitely.
come back anytime.
Definitely. And for you all who have been able to join us here tonight, once again, for a great episode, a great conversation, we thank you so much, and we take it as an honor and a privilege for you to be with us. As we stated earlier, we are now starting to have our shows now on Sunday evenings instead of Mondays as we normally go. However, once we get into the season again, who knows? You may just see us in front of your TV, in your phone, on your phone, more than once per week as we did it before. But we thank you so much for joining us. And as we say, continue to subscribe and also to follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel if it is that you have not yet done so. We're grateful for everything. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to you all, wherever it is that you join us from. We are thankful that you are here to join us on Track and Field Talk Night.